Amazing. So, welcome, my lovely Katie. Thank you so much for being here. We've just been saying that this is really just an informal, lovely natter. I'm physically on my sofa, but you're in my virtual living room.
I love
Even
it.
though you're in the kitchen.
I love it. You're in my virtual kitchen, right?
Yeah, my kitchen's there, so we're almost just in like parallel rooms.
Yeah, it's all good.
But thank you so much for jumping on for these little chats that I
Mm.
am having with amazing humans, of which you are an incredibly amazing human. And for those that have never come across your wonderful work before, can you give us a little bit of a background about you? And you do tons of things.
How long have you got?
So where you start with that, I will leave to you. But can you just share a little bit about you and your journey?
Absolutely. I mean, the journey is quite long, and I've definitely taken the twisty country path to get where I am now. It was never A to B. It's A to B to C, F, G, Z. We've gone the whole way around. But if I introduce myself now, I always say I am an author, a women's empowerment coach, a book coach, motivational speaker, psychic, and event organizer. So even now I have lots of strings to my bow because, like you, I can't just do one thing. I get bored too easily. So I like to vary my time, as it were.
Yeah, very multifaceted being. And of course, you were the editor of my book as well.
I was. That's just when we got on. So I feel like it's been
I know.
3 years since the last spoke to you. It's crazy. It's gone so fast.
Don't. I know, I know. And I think as soon as we published that book, I was like, yeah, I'll get on with the next one. I am on with the next one.
But everything happens as and when it's supposed to, right?
Exactly.
You have to just trust your journey. And with creativity, I think that it's not something that you necessarily force and push. You
Yeah.
have to flow with it. And sometimes I find with books, you have to live the experience first and then you can write about it. So maybe you're having to experience a few things before you can write about them.
Yeah, which absolutely makes sense with me being on my little sabbatical from work. Like that's feeding into it. So it
Yeah.
does make perfect sense. But yeah, I think how do you find when you're writing your own books? Because for me, when I sat myself down in front of my laptop and was like, right, I'm gonna have like 2 hours of writing,
Mm.
nothing happened. Whereas like it could be 2 a.m. in the morning and I'd be like, oh my God, I can write 4 chapters now.
Yep,
And it
absolutely.
came at the weirdest time. How do you find it when you're writing?
You have to realize that because I believe, like you, I'm very spiritual, and I believe that creativity is actually not necessarily coming from us. I think it is downloaded, channeled from elsewhere, and so you have to be the open channel for that. And it doesn't always come at the best moment, right? It really doesn't. It comes like I find for me, walking helps. I have to go and get
Mm.
twins from school, and it's like a half an hour walk, and I find that that will open up the tap, as it were. So I have my notes app, and I'll have to stop when I'm walking. I'll be like, because it will. You tell yourself you'll remember it when you get home. You won't, or you'll be lying in bed and you'll have an idea. And as annoying as it is, you have to write it down somewhere or record it because you won't remember it in the morning.
No,
You
that's
have to
the thing.
grab
I
them.
had
They
like,
come. But yeah, if you sit down for 2 hours or you go in a cabin in the woods for 6 weeks, it's too much pressure. You have to almost just be turn up for it when it wants to show up, I think.
yeah, I'm glad it's not just me because yeah, I remember having like really groggy voice notes when it had been like the middle of the night and I'd be like, I just need to record this. And then at some point you listen to them back and you're like, right, let me try and like type that up and make it something that makes sense. Yeah, I love viewing that as like a channel because it is, isn't it? And it's coming, yeah, coming in and getting onto the paper,
Mm.
which is lovely. Are you writing anything at the moment?
Yes, I am co-authoring a novel with another author, which is something I've not done before. It's only also the second novel I've ever written because my first ever book in 2013 was a novel.
Hmm.
But since then, as you know, I've done self-help books, spiritual books, the
Yeah.
whole, nonfiction. But I saw her on TikTok. And I wasn't friends with her, but she came up on my FYP and she had this idea for a book. And because I'm a bit cheeky and a bit scouse, I just messaged her and went, "This sounds great. Would you be interested?" And since then, and what's nice is we write a chapter each. So it's a bit like that thing when you're little, where you have the piece of paper and you do it like the feet and then you fold it up and then they do the lesson. So what's great is it really is a great space for creativity because the way that I would go with it, she'll bring something new that I hadn't thought of, which then opens up me even more to more creative ideas. So it's going really well. It's exciting and it's something different from what I've done before. It's not spiritual book. It's actually to do with AI and aliens, which sounds really, it's so cool. It's a bit like the Da Vinci Code in a way. It's they're on a quest, they're on a mission, trying to find out what's going on. It's good, it's exciting.
Ooh. I love that. I love that way of writing as well. That's so cool.
Yeah, yeah,
Oh, I look forward to that one.
yeah. I watch this space, right? We're getting there
Yeah.
bit by bit. We just have to, we're both mums, we're both busy. So, we try to put too much pressure on each other, but it's happening. So it's cool.
Yeah. And like you say, it'll unfold when it's supposed to be birthed into the world. That's when it
Exactly.
arrives.
Exactly, exactly. But I mean, your book was amazing. I was so humbled and proud, really, to help you birth that into the world. One of my clients called me a book doula, that I literally birth books out, which I think is pretty cool. We were publishing one a couple of weeks ago, and we were in labour pains there for a minute, but we finally pushed it out. It was cool. But it is such a privilege, and that's why my book coaching is called Write Your Magic, because it is such a privilege to see someone full of all these ideas, but also insecurities and imposter syndrome, and literally hold their hand and go, "Come with me, I'll help you." And at the end of it, they've got a book in their hands. It's incredible.
Yeah, and it is, the labor pains are real, right?
Oh
So,
yeah.
I mean, you've experienced them yourself as well. How have you managed when you felt like an imposter and you've had that imposter syndrome?
I think you have to. There's two things. One is that you keep a file or a box or a jar or something of your wins,
Okay.
right? Because sometimes we get so focused on what we haven't done and
Yeah.
what we feel we're lacking, we forget what we actually have done and what we've achieved so far and how
Mm.
far you've come. The version of you now, even if you're not where you want to be yet, the version of you that you are now, you manifested this, you prayed for this, you were like, I want to be at this space, and here you are. So I mean, we never really stop to think what we have accomplished, and I think it's important to look back, not just as like, in the workspace, but
Mm.
even in your professional life, you've overcome things, challenges, difficulties, trauma, to get where you are now, and that's incredible. The second thing is to make sure that you have cheerleaders in your life,
Mm.
because when you can't see yourself, when you can't celebrate yourself, you need people on your team who can lift you back up again. And if you haven't got any of those people, you really do need to find somebody who believes in you as much as you believe in somebody else. It's so important.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think that's one thing that I loved when I've had like membership groups and things like that, or when I've hosted like mastermind containers, like they are so powerful.
Mm.
And I think sometimes it's not even about like knowing the steps or strategies or what to do. It is about being in that space with those humans, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because it alters your energy massively.
Absolutely, absolutely. I posted a picture on my socials a couple of days ago, and there's a moldy orange in a bowl of fruit. And if there's another orange next to it, the mold will transfer onto the other orange. So that will become moldy too. And it really was, watch who you're surrounding yourself with. Misery loves company. And there's sometimes everyone needs a good moan, because we're British and that's what we do. We like a good moan, especially about the weather. That's what we do. But at the same time, if you find yourself surrounded by negative people all the time, what do you think that's going to do to your energy and to your mindset? It's. I'm not saying cut people out altogether, but it is like your as you know, Vix, your energy and your boundaries are everything, and it's up to you to take care of them.
Absolutely. Have you ever had it where I've had this a few times and it's really tricky where perhaps in your friendship groups or in your professional life, especially working in corporate environments, this
Mm.
happens a lot, where there is either one or several people that are, I don't like to use the word toxic, but perhaps impacting on your energy or draining you. Have you ever had that? And if
Oh
you
God, yeah.
how have you dealt with that?
I mean, the one kind of story, because as you know, I'm a woman of many stories. I have a story for every occasion. I used to be a high school teacher.
Mm.
People kind of go, "You taught teenagers," and I was like, "Yeah, but teenagers, for the most part, are not the problem. That's not why I don't teach anymore." And, yes, you'll get your problem people, but then you get problem adults. It's not just teenagers. Actually, it was the teaching environment that really wasn't suited for me. As we have established, I am multifaceted, I'm creative.
Yeah.
I found it too limiting a box to put me in. But one of the issues really was that my deputy head was, for some reason, and I don't know why, I was in my 20s at the time. She was probably around my age now. She drove a very nice car. She had a lovely home. She had children. To all intents and purposes, she had everything that you
Mm.
think you would want. But for some reason, she didn't like me. And
Okay.
for a year, she would essentially bully me. She undermined me at every opportunity she got. There were times where I'd be in the toilet at lunchtime crying my eyes out. And it reminded, because I was bullied when I was a teenager, I
Mm.
felt like she put me back in that energy space. And it really was a case of eventually, and sometimes you try and like, especially in a corporate or in a professional sense, there's this sense of responsibility and duty. So you try and push through, you try and do the right thing, right? But it got to the point where my mental health was really impacted. The doctor said if I didn't leave, I was on the verge of a mental breakdown. So he said, "You got to go." And I was like, "Oh, I'll do it till the end of the year." And he was like, "No, you have to go like now." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Oh." And when it came time to hand my notice in, I had a meeting with the head teacher who had never taught before because the school had become an academy. He'd been a manager in a corporate sense and never been shipped into this academy to run it like a business, right?
Yeah.
So I had a meeting with him and he asked, why have you handed your notice in? Is there anything we can do? And I said, well, to be honest with you, I said that first of all, teaching, I realised is not for me. It just doesn't suit me. But actually, the deputy head hasn't been treating me very well. And he was like, well, how do you mean? And when I kind of told him what had been going on, he said, well, did you put in a complaint? And I said, I've told my head of department, but nothing's been done about it. And it's still continuing. And it was almost like, he found it really hard to accept what I was saying. He wasn't calling me a liar, but at the
Hmm.
same time, he wasn't really hearing me. And it just solidified that I was not in the right space.
Yeah.
So you have to know, yes, you can try and make it better. Yes, you can try and, have mediation and compromise and try and work it out. But sometimes you have to know when it's time to go.
Yeah. And
And
it's okay
that's
to
a
do that.
boundary thing as well. And that's, I think that's a work in progress for everybody. You'll get it wrong, you'll make mistakes, but we just try and keep doing what's right for us, basically.
Yeah, definitely. And, it's okay to walk away. I think is
Mm-hmm.
that a lot of people find, quite a lot of resistance with as well.
Yeah.
How did you find that transition then? What happened next? Did you go straight into like self-employment after that,
Oh,
or
no,
did
no,
you
no.
transition?
Because even then, even when I left full time employment as a teacher, I was still a supply teacher then for 18 months. So I still, even though I left that position, I still found it hard to walk away from teaching full stop.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, eventually I left. And then I went through, and I've spoken about this in the past, and it's not necessarily the nicest thing to talk about, but it is important. And everybody has their story, everyone has trauma. My grandparents were very tragically and very sadly killed in an arson attack on their flat in 2010. Essentially, a lad who, and he was an older teenage boy who had mental health issues. And there were other boys in the neighborhood who basically saw him as they could get him to do stuff because he didn't fully understand what he was doing. And so they kind of egged him on to set my granddad's mobility scooter on fire. Um, my nan and granddad got out. They were rescued by the fire brigade out the back window. But they were both elderly. My granddad had emphysema. And they both passed away the next day in the hospital from the injuries they sustained. And to say that that's traumatic really undersells the impact on the family. Like I say, they were elderly, they weren't in great health, but to lose two people on the same day in the most awful circumstances. I mean, we had then a police investigation. We then had the media camped at the end of the road trying to interview us and take pictures. I mean, they came to the funeral and everything. It was just awful. And what that does is, I believe, and it doesn't have to be this way for everybody, but I find that tower moments, which comes from the tarot, which is the tower cards, which is like, this is like a big thing that's going to like completely implode your world. For me, cracked me open because it made me stop. It made me really reflect on who I was I happy, what did I want? And I realized that in my 20s, I'd been coasting.
Yeah.
I was like a boat on the ocean with no map, no compass, no sense of direction. I was just could take wherever it wanted to take me, but I wasn't happy, and I wasn't. Even though I'd had friends and relationships and obviously jobs, and I had my son when I was 21, but I wasn't happy in myself, but I didn't know how to really. I couldn't find the answer. I didn't know how to fix it.
Yeah.
But of course, the universe will always provide if you trust it, right? And so, a friend of my mom's who was a psychic medium, lovely Barbara, who's no longer with us. The first time I met her, she walked up to me. She didn't say hello or nice to meet you. She went, "You can do what I can do, you know." And I was like, excuse me? Because although, like most teenagers, you kind of have a passing interest in the occult and the
Yeah.
paranormal, but I'd never really taken it very seriously. But she was great. She basically mentored me to tap into my intuition and to work with the tarot. And from her, that's where I started. But I didn't take it seriously for a really long time. It was a side hustle.
Mm,
I didn't actually go self-employed until 2018.
mm.
So I was doing readings. I wasn't owning it,
Yeah.
and there was almost a sense of embarrassment. So when I spoke to people and they go, "What do you do?" and I go, "I read the tarot." Right? And it's because I felt they were going to judge me,
Yeah.
but they weren't judging me until I started judging myself. And then because I was giving them this weird, awkward energy, they then judged me anyway. So it was like this horrible feedback loop. So I was like really in my head about it. And then came up the spiritual closet, all bells, all singing, all dancing. And, yeah, it's been since then. I mean, literally, my phone is balanced on 3 tarot decks at the moment. So I've been talking to you.
Brilliant.
I love divination. I love the oracle cards. I love tarot cards. But my passion now, as you know, is empowering women, and I do that in many different ways because I know what it's like to not feel empowered.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my drive now.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you're absolutely right. When things and events happen like that, they are the moments, they're the tower moments where we go, right, what am I doing?
Yeah,
And you really reevaluate like your priorities and what's important,
mm,
don't you?
absolutely.
And you kind of you mentioned it, and I think a lot of people, and not just women, but I think women especially have this, especially yeah, in our 20s, and that feeling of one, not knowing who we are, but also how to love ourselves.
Mm,
And obviously, self-love is a huge part of what you do and in how you're helping women feel that empowerment and reclaim their power
yeah.
back. But was there anything that really helped you love yourself
Oh,
and
big.
look after yourself?
I've been on that journey, as you know. Good Lord. Up until I want to say 36, maybe. I'm
Mm,
43 now, time recording this. Um, I had a terrible relationship with myself. My self-esteem and my self-worth were lower than a worm's booby. I'll keep it PG. I just did not like myself at all. I had no self-confidence. You wouldn't know it to talk to me, right?
mm,
So on the outside, I was hi, make people laugh. Hi, Scouse girl, bit mad, whatever. But on the inside, I was a wobbly jelly and was convinced that no one really liked me, and everyone was just being nice, and all of this sort of stuff. And then it was really the ending of my marriage that again was another tower moment, right? Like I say, I've never gone the straight path. We always go around the detours, but I realized, and it was a bit of a shock, that I'd had numerous not great relationships with men. And I was really brought up on Disney and fairy tales and 90s Hollywood movies and stuff that I was waiting to be rescued. I was waiting to be saved for years and kept waiting for Prince Charming and couldn't understand why he couldn't find me. I was
mm.
like, I don't have Prince Charming on a horse. I have a troll on a donkey and he's got lost. Like I was just, it just, I couldn't understand. And I was a real victim to it. Like, what's wrong with me? Why do I keep meeting all these horrible men? Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, that moment of epiphany of like, oh, it's because I'm attracting them in because I don't like myself and they're just giving it back to me, right? Everyone's your mirror. And
Yeah,
once I
gorgeous
realized,
reflection.
yeah, of course, once I realized that, I mean, initially there was a little bit of shame and guilt and blame. That's dead normal because it's a grief process.
Yeah.
But once I kind of worked through that, and then I was like, okay, well, I need to focus on loving myself. I need to focus on, because as I've shown, doesn't matter where you go in the world, you take you with you. Like you are your longest relationship. And I was really tired of having this bullying, nasty relationship with myself. So I mean, one of the first things I did, and I always give this now as an exercise, and it's so transformative, is the mirror work, which was developed by Louise Hay. And the first time I did it, so you don't just go and look in the mirror like you're doing your makeup or your hair. You have to like make yourself sit
Mm,
and like deeply look into your own eyes and look past all of the top things, that I am a mom, whatever, and go right down to the core being of who you are. And the first time I did it, I felt like my skin wanted to crawl off my body. I was so uncomfortable. I literally couldn't do it and like ran from the mirror. The second time I just giggled because I felt so stupid. I felt like, I was being punked or something. It was awful. And so the third time I was like, no, come on. Come on. We're a big advocate of Hay House. They really talk about it. Come on, we can do this. My Taurus moon, right? Stubborn as hell. So I like made myself sit. And as I looked, I started to cry. And I was like, oh, there you are. And
Mm.
then you start to give yourself lots of positive affirmations. And it's a process. It's not a one-time
Yeah.
thing, as you know. It's not like I've done it once and I'm healed and I'm fixed. It is a lifelong journey. And sometimes I have to revisit that and kind of remind myself of, oh, there you are. Let's give ourselves some love. But I think the more that you show up for yourself, what happens now is, I mean, so say, some days I am Gollum and some days I am Beyonce.
Yeah.
But on my Gollum days, I don't spiral down now for weeks and months. I just go, we're just having a bad day. It's okay. We'll try again tomorrow. You give yourself grace.
Yeah. I love that. That's so beautiful. And it's that permission slip, isn't it? That we're human.
Yeah, yeah,
And Gollum's gonna rock up when Gollum wants to rock up. But it's allowing that and yeah, not being hard on yourself and beating yourself up and striving for a perfection that's not real.
none next perfection's a myth anyway. It comes
Yeah.
again, it's imposter syndrome and this false sense of control.
Yeah.
But if you spend your life trying to be perfect, you're never going to feel good enough.
No, absolutely. And have you found that this has had any kind of impact or bearing on your professional self in like your business and showing up as a business owner?
Absolutely. One of my key things, which I think is the same for a lot of women, is money. My
Mm,
money story. Like I was that woman for ages, especially doing readings. Like I was always putting special offers on because I was so frightened of lack that
mm,
I was like, I just need money. Especially when I became a single parent
yeah.
of three children, I was like, I just need money. So I just kept putting special offers on. I mean, I used to charge at one point. I think I charged like £11 for an hour reading or something. Like it was just stupid and really, and just didn't value myself at all. But of course, what happens then is nobody books with you at full price because they know you're going to put a discount on. So they wait, right?
Mm,
And then it was a friend of mine in America, and she is a coach and she works with like wives and girlfriends of sports stars. And, she has quite high ticket offerings. And I was chatting to her just like this, and she said, I could recommend you, Kate, to quite a lot of people. She said, but I can't do that. And I was a bit like, why? That's not very nice. And she said, you don't charge enough.
okay.
They won't value you. They won't value all the work you're doing because you're underselling yourself. I've had readings off you and I don't book with you anymore because you're not valuing yourself. And it was a bit of a uncomfortable moment of truth, right? But I realized that she was right. And so I can't go from here to here price wise because my brain won't accept it.
Yeah.
So what I realize now is I have to go up in steps.
Mhm.
So I have raised my prices and I'm still undercharging for what I could be charging, but I have to sit and get comfortable
Yeah.
before I then. So, but that's come with the empowerment and the self love and the confidence is that I now know my worth and my value. I know how I help people. I know what I bring to the table, and you adjust your prices accordingly. But it's something I think again it's a work in progress, and women especially. I think because generationally, you don't have to go too far back in the line where women were not responsible for their own money. We're not allowed to have their own money, right? Our grandmothers and our great grandmothers, women were not allowed to have bank accounts. They weren't allowed to own their own property. These are real things that we
Yeah.
had to suffer. And so our generation, I think, are kind of figuring it out as we go along, and we don't have a lot of role models. And so you're going to get it wrong and you're going to make mistakes. But the key thing, like everything else, is that's okay. Learn from it and try again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And I think, yeah, we see this a lot with money, especially, don't we? Money and relationships are, I think, the two things where you can almost see what is going on internally in your external world so obviously.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know the universe is a mirror in all
Yeah.
aspects, but I think in those two particular areas, it can be so black and white that you can literally see what you're putting out from your internal. How would you say if you have those moments in your business where you are in those spaces of lack, how do you lift yourself out from that?
It's not easy
Mm.
because one of the key thing is you can't make a change until you acknowledge there's a problem,
Yeah.
right? So acknowledging the problem is quite difficult sometimes because we get comfortable, or at least we tell ourselves that we're comfortable, right? And I think the comfort zone actually is a bit of a misnomer. I think it's labeled wrong
Mm,
because comfort, I mean, where you're sitting now, you look very cozy and
yeah.
comfortable, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the comfort zone doesn't look like that. The
No.
comfort zone is this is safe. And if I step out of this into the unknown, I am not safe.
Mm,
So we have this false belief that we are safe where we are, but actually the comfort zone is very limiting. But you have to acknowledge that first, and that's not a comfortable truth to sit with.
yeah.
Um, and again, there are times where I know my truth. I know, like people say to me, "Oh, you should be doing this." I hate should, or you could be doing this. And I'm like, I know, I'm not stupid, right? But sometimes somebody else pointing it out it's like that validation or that confirmation that okay, it's not just me pipe dreaming or me wishful thinking. There's somebody else has also noticed this, and maybe this is something for me to look at.
Mm.
Especially when it's more than one person. I mean, in the space of like, I want to say a month, I had 3 separate people all telling me you're not charging enough. You should raise your prices. And I was like, okay, yeah, I'm listening.
Yeah. They're the signals from the universe, like, hello, please pay attention to us.
At the same time, I think it's recognizing like, because I've watched people whose prices are just stupid. Right. I had a friend and she said, I've been to a lady who reads the Acacia records.
Mm.
Do you want her details? And at that point, I was like, yeah, I've never had that before. That'd be cool. She gave me the link. And I think for a 20-minute reading, she was charging £240, which
Okay.
to me, I was just like, that feels like something that feels excessive. Now,
Mm.
to some of people, it wouldn't. To some people, they go,
Yeah.
yeah. But to me, I was like, that's a lot of money.
Mm.
So it's all about it's finding, I think, where is your minimum and where is your maximum?
Yeah.
Like because otherwise, if you go, like if I started charging like, I don't know, 10 grand,
Mm.
that doesn't feel comfortable to me.
Yeah.
So it's knowing where your upper limit is and kind of playing with that and also revisiting it from time to time to see if it's changed. Because what's comfortable now may not be comfortable in 2 years' time.
Yeah. True. True. I remember one of the coaches I worked with a very, very long time ago now. And when we were looking at like pricing structures and things like that, and I think there's so many things with pricing structures and strategies
Mm.
that some are great, some, yeah, I think intuitively is often best. But I remember one conversation with her, and it was about how we will only charge what we would also pay or invest.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you
Yeah.
think that's about right? And that's where you feel the comfort
Yeah.
comes from because I would pay that for a similar service. Yeah.
Yeah, I had one. She will remain nameless forever, but I had one lady who offered. She was taking 6 women, I think, to work with for a year, one
Mm.
on one, and she was asking 25 grand per person, which was just shocking to me, especially because I told her my money situation here,
Yeah.
single parent, and she said, "Well, women take out loans or credit cards to pay me. Do you want to change your life or not?" And I just thought, see, if you're going to put people in debt, then you're charging too much money.
Yeah.
And so my mum always said to me, don't do anything that you would lose sleep on.
Yeah.
You have to be able to go to bed with a clear conscience as much as you can. And if you know that you're overpricing and you're hurting people and you're putting people in financial difficulty or in debt, I can't sleep at night if I do that.
Yeah. It is, but our own comfort levels, I guess,
Yeah,
is which is it's got to be different for all of us. And I would love to have like maybe I'll interview someone who does like have businesses that are like on those models. I think that would be really, really interesting.
yeah,
Um, because the clientele, it must be different. It must,
absolutely.
yeah,
Absolutely. The people who just have high ticket offerings have
yeah.
very different clientele than people who have a low ticket offering.
Yeah, I've definitely found that when I usually do a mixture.
Yeah,
What I will do moving forward, who knows? But I've often had a mixture of like the higher ticket and then the real entry level that is literally for everyone, or
yeah,
free things that are open to everyone as well. Um, and yeah, the clientele is very different
yeah,
at each stage. The results are also different.
yes.
Um, I think that obviously must have some bearing somewhere, but
Mhm.
It's fascinating, isn't it?
Oh, it is, absolutely. And again, it's all to do, well, a lot of it is to do with how you value yourself, which,
Yeah.
again, I think it is like everything, it's a work in progress because we are, right? Like
Yeah.
people, anyone who goes to you, I've done all my healing, I've completely healed myself, I've worked through all of my shadow, and you just like run as fast as you can because that person's either in deep denial or they're a narcissist. Either way, it's not healthy for you to be around that person, right?
Yeah. We're an ongoing project, aren't we?
Yeah, still like multifaceted, messy humans. That's what we do.
Yeah. So the cat's just
All
walking.
right, I
He
love it.
wants to be part of the interview as well.
And I love a
Absolutely
pussy cat,
right.
so it's fine.
And I think, that's the lovely thing about a lot of the work that you definitely do that I've done in the past where we're giving people the tools because we know we're always going to need that toolkit. Always, because you're a spiritual being having a human experience and things are going to come up and
Mhm.
life's going to throw things at us and we're going to need to know how to handle that.
Yeah, and we live in an imperfect, messy world with other imperfect, messy human beings. So it's not always your stuff per se, it's related to other people. I think Gabby Bernstein said, our relationships are our biggest teachers, right? Like
For sure.
it's not, and it doesn't have to just be romantic. Friendships, family, co-workers, clients, the
Yeah.
lady down the road, your neighbor. Like anytime you're connecting with somebody, you're forming a relationship. And some of those are very triggering. Some of them are very difficult to deal with. And they will bring up stuff. Like
Mm.
I was saying, talking to my friend yesterday about something, and she said, "This is really triggering me." And I said, "It's for you to look at. Because
Yeah.
if there wasn't something there, you wouldn't be triggered. You wouldn't have a reaction
Mhm.
to it." But of course, normally these things are, there's never something lovely and joyful, like, oh, should I have a chocolate bar? Oh, I love a chocolate. It's not, it's like, it's stuff that makes you feel really like, I don't want to. And
Yeah.
that's always a sign that maybe you should just have a little look, you know?
Yeah, definitely. What we resist persists. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, look at
Absolutely.
it. Look at it. So obviously you do so many different wonderful things. How
Mm-hmm.
do you balance that? And obviously with being a mum as well and like looking after your own well-being, how do you get the balance?
I don't always get it right.
Mm.
My sun sign is Libra, and I think if you're a Libra, one of your key life lessons is to find balance
Mm.
more than anybody else. I don't always get it right because always that the extreme of that is that you either go to too much one side or the other, right? Um, it has gotten better, I think, as I'm getting older. In terms of work, I mean, deadlines are one thing. If someone's waiting for you, then you have to get your head down and get on with it.
Mm.
But if it's just day to day stuff, I will go where my energy goes. So if I get to a point where, because the brain can also only like work on something solidly for, I think it's maximum of like 40 minutes
Mm.
before you have to have a break. So if you're sitting there forcing yourself for like hours and hours and hours, is it really your best work anyway? Because you're resentful and you're tired and you can't be bothered. So
Mm.
when I notice that my energy is dipping, I go, okay, let's go and do something else for a while. Let's mix it up. Let's bring something fresh to the table. So that's kind of, I notice now intuitively, especially in my body, I notice how I'm feeling, really feeling, not the guilt, not I should, not the shame. What's my body telling me? And
Mm.
try and listen and pay attention to that. And in terms of being a mom, um, yeah, and trying to find some self care, it's like I say, I don't always get it right, and it is a work in progress. There are times where I don't like to say should, I could balance that more than I am, but say having twins on your own, it is not always easy.
I can imagine, but I guess you are living proof. You're some evidence for somebody that it's possible.
Yeah, it's possible. It's not easy. The amount of people that will look at me and go, "Wow, I wish I'd had twins," and I go, "Well, yeah. I mean, they're amazing. I mean, they're 12 now, and they give me a lot of joy and a lot of positive stuff in my life. But that's bloody hard work.
Yeah.
It really is, especially on your own. And my daughter, God love her, she's autistic and suffers with anxiety, and she's in puberty. So that's can be interesting. Mother Nature also says, let's make you perimenopausal at the same time. So that can be really interesting sometimes. But we're muddling through.
You're on that little journey together of just the hormones. Oh, yeah. Yeah. But beautiful as well to have
Yeah,
you together. Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. I think the key thing is to try and find what lights you up, right?
Mm.
Because all of us have to, unless you live and your parents are multimillionaires,
Mm.
All of us have to go and find something to do. And I think even if you were, like, I could never imagine myself doing nothing. Even if like had billions in the bank, I still had to do something, otherwise I'd be bored. So the key thing is, if you're going to give a big chunk of your time to doing something,
Mm.
you don't have to be miserable while you're doing it.
Mm.
I don't remember that conversation at school, right? You know, when the careers advisor would come around and they go, "What do you want to do when you grow up and leave school? Oh, by the way, you've got to be stressed out and miserable while you're doing it."
Mm.
That wasn't part, but we find so many of us, and I've been in those positions, find ourselves in jobs that really, if we're honest, are paying the bills, but nothing else.
Yeah.
We all need money to live, fine. But if your job is literally pulling you down and making you feel depressed and sad and anxious and negative thinking, it's worth a look, I think, is to kind of say, well, what do you really want to do? Of course, that transition is not easy. And somebody, if you were my client in that sense, I would say to you, realistically, you're probably going to have to do things in tandem.
Mm.
You're going to have to walk two paths at the same time until you build up the second one. And so you can make that leap. But I still think, life is really short.
Yeah.
We're here for such a blink of an eye, especially in COVID, if nothing else taught us that. Your life can go at any given moment. You should spend your life, the life that you have, trying to be as happy as you possibly can.
Mm. For sure.
You know? So yeah, following your passion is a really important thing, I think. And it doesn't really matter what that is nowadays, because you can make money doing pretty much anything. Some of the jobs I see, and I'm like, that's not a job, but they're like, no, it is. And I'm like, that's amazing. Chocolate tester, yes, please.
From. Yeah, it's so true. And what would you say to someone who didn't know what their passions were?
Mm. I've had these conversations. I have. I think it's a good place to start is to remember what you used to when you were little.
Mm.
Because like when I look back at my life, one of the key things that really stood out for me has always been books. Like
Mm.
I'm an only child. My parents divorced when I was 8, and I was that child that would rather be sitting at home reading than
Mm.
going out to play. Like I would have the neighbours' kids going, "Is Kate coming out to play?" And I would go, "No, I'm reading my book." So that was always me. And I loved English at school. I loved writing stories. Um, my degree is in English. I've been an English teacher. Like all the signs were pointing that way. But because I had low self-esteem and low self-worth, I wouldn't let myself kind of lean into it. And it sounds daft now saying this, but it was actually having the twins that kind of gave me permission to have a go. Because although, yes, I was a single mom, not single mom, a stay at home mom for 4 years. Um, so I was busy, but writing was something that was just mine
Yeah.
because my day was filled with other people. Everyone wanted something from me, and
Mm.
writing was my thing. So that was kind of the permission to finally give it a go. But like the signs were always there. And I think if you look back when you're a kid and remember the things you used to do just because you love them, they
Mm.
will provide clues. And I'm not saying that you should do exactly what you did when you were a kid. Like I used to play Kirby and go for a bike ride down the hill. Like I can't do that for a living. But
Yeah.
there are clues there that there are things that you actually love to do if you remember.
Mm. That's a really nice way of thinking about it.
Mm.
Just taking yourself back.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I say, it may not give you all of the answer, but it will provide clues and signposts that you can find the answer.
Mm. Yeah, just diving into that, isn't it? And exploring. Because I guess when we're children, that's the essence of us, isn't it? Because we've not got those pressures, we've not got the obligations,
Yeah,
we've not yet been conditioned and got those limiting beliefs and all the mindset challenges that come with growing up. So that is at the core of our spirit.
yeah. You do things when you're little because you want to do them. You do them because you
Yeah.
enjoy doing them. Like I say, now as you get an adult, it's all this responsibility and the shoulds and the shame and the guilt and the blame. And it's like, but that little version of yourself, your inner child, still there.
Yeah.
Still
Ab-
wants to be creative, or it wants to play, or it wants to, I don't know, do something, whatever it is, it's still sitting inside of you. You just have to
Yeah.
tap back into it.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. Well, I'm going to have a little look now. I've been inspired. One of my favorite podcasts is Stephen Bartlett because I
Mm.
absolutely love his Diary of a CEO. So I've asked everyone who's having an interview on my virtual sofa to ask a question for another guest. So this is going to be completely random. Um, so I quite like this one actually, and it kind of fits with the work that you do as well. But how can you stop yourself from comparing with others around you?
Oh, the comparison train. Oh, I hate the comparison train. And do you know what the worst thing is for that? Social media. Now, I
Yeah.
love social media. I do. And we're all slightly addicted to our phones. We can admit that.
Yeah.
TikTok is lethal now. I have to
Yes.
give myself a time limit. I'll get 10 more videos and then put the phone down. Like, you have to be quite strict with yourself.
Yes, you do.
But comparison, what I came to realize, and this kind of harks back to what happened in 2010, because before 2010, I used to buy Heat magazine
Mm.
religiously every week. It was my Bible. I was obsessed with celebrity culture and who was with who and who was doing what and all of the gossip. And then after what happened, the Daily Mail wrote a piece on the incident. And
Mm.
so we'd had an interview with them because we'd been pressurized into it.
Mm.
And but they wrote a bunch of lies. Didn't write the truth at all. And then suddenly I realized that these celebrities that I was reading about that I thought had such perfect lives, I don't know them
Mm.
at all. I don't know their lives. I don't know who they are as people. I also don't even know if it's true.
Yeah.
And so I know that's an extreme example, but social media, whenever you're scrolling through, people tend to post their highlights. People don't post about their failures and their losses. They post about their wins, right? So if you're scrolling through social media and you're seeing all these people and you're feeling like crap about yourself in
Mm.
comparison, just try and bear in mind that you don't know the whole story. You only know what you're being told, and you don't even know if that's true, right? I also kind of will use it as a space to investigate why I'm in comparison. What is it about this person that makes me feel like I'm in lack? Because that's what comparison is. You're
Yeah.
in lack in comparison to that person. So what is it? Is it the relationship? Is it the money? Is it the job? Is it the lifestyle? And then try and flip it, right? Because we are in charge of our thoughts. We are in charge of our mindset. I'm doing a psychology degree at the moment, so I know this to be true. We are in charge of our thoughts all the time.
Yeah.
And so rather than seeing it as a thing of lack, inspire you to reach for more, not to copy them, but
Mm.
to go, this person, like let's say they're on holiday in Barbados, I don't know, in a 5-star retreat, and you're stuck on a rainy train with a weak coffee. Okay, I don't want to be them, but I want some of that in my life. Okay, you've identified what it is that you're actually wanting. Okay, now you can start to think about, how do I get there? How do I make that my reality so that I can post about that in the future? So
Yeah.
try, rather than seeing it like comparison, oh, I'm so crap, I'm going to use it as a source of inspiration to push me forward in my own life.
Yeah.
And also, of course, with social media, make sure that everyone you're following inspires you or uplifts you in some way. Don't follow anybody that drags you down. There's enough of that in the world. Don't put yourself in that position.
Yeah, for sure. Have a clear out.
Yeah, okay, I love a clear out.
Yeah, it's so good, so good. And I think, yeah, having those inspirational people around because it shows you what's possible, doesn't
Mm,
it?
absolutely.
And I
A
think,
great
yeah,
quote, sorry, that said, I'm going to clap for people until it's my turn.
I love that.
I can't really say it now, but it is. It's like, rather than going feeling jealous, because that's what it is, going like, she's doing this, she's opened a door so other women can follow on behind her, and I am one of those women. So good for her.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think both of us kind of share content to try and
Mm,
do that as well. And, I was that person at the five-star resort in Barbados in December, but if it's possible for me,
yeah,
it's possible for anyone.
yeah, exactly, exactly. When I've had books in water sounds and I've
Yeah.
given talks in front of hundreds of people, I don't go, oh, look at me, aren't I wonderful? A, because I'm British, so I can't do that anyway. But I go, if you want to live your dream, if you have a dream, I am proof that you can make it happen.
Yeah,
If I can do it, anyone can do it.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Being
yeah,
an
try and
inspiration.
see it that way. It's not. I say it's not always easy, and there are some
Mm.
people that will trigger you more than other people, or there are some things that will trigger you more than other things.
For
But
sure.
it's trying to get. I think it's trying to give ourselves kindness and grace at every step, rather than punishment and blame.
Yeah. Brilliant. I love that. Great words of wisdom. You have a lovely way with words, of course, as an author. So, where can people find you? Is there different ways people can work with you at the moment? Have you got any events coming up? What's the world of at the minute?
Yeah, I mean, there's. there's nothing major in the diary event-wise so far this year, apart from my women's empowerment event in October in Norwich, which is Rise, which I provide a platform for women to share their stories in a room full of other women. Last year was the 5th year that I've done it, and it's magic. It really is. It's so powerful. We laugh, we cry, we dance, we make friends. It's amazing. But in terms of the offerings, I mean, I have my women's empowerment coaching, which I call the Rise Mentorship, which is a 6-week block where we have a video call once a week, and you get a psychic reading, you get distance Reiki, I do your natal chart, like it's gorgeous. And then, of course, there's the whole book coaching program, which I literally take somebody who has an idea and I hold their hand, and together I walk with you until you will have a book in your hand, which I just adore. I mean, literally, tomorrow is going to be the 21st book published through the program.
Very exciting.
It's awesome.
21 babies.
Yeah, exactly. Are in the world because of me. I mean, that's just, I can't even get my head around that. It's huge. So, but yes, in terms of where you can find me, my website is katieoman.co.uk. Oman is spelled like the country, Oman. And on social media platforms, I have the same handle across them all to make it as easy as possible, which is katieoman1111.
Gorgeous.
Because you got to love your ones, right?
Absolutely. Love the numbers. All about the numbers. I will post them when I post this recording as well, so people can click and find you. But
great. And anybody who I'm very open to a message, a DM. So if you ever just want to go a chat, you don't have to sign up and work with me. If you have a question or like just want to share something with me, feel free to message me anytime.
Gorgeous. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
So fun.
Yeah, it's been great. I love chatting to people, and you and I have some great chats. We always did. So it's been thank you so much for having me on. I've loved it.
No, anytime. It's beautiful. And I'm sure one of our next conversations at some point will be me going, can you edit this, please? Here's a baby that needs editing.
I will say to everybody, my door's always open. So, when you're ready, you just give me a shout.
Yeah, gorgeous. Thank you so, so much.
You're welcome.
I'll speak to you very soon.
All right, darling. Thank you so much. Thank you. Bye.
See you soon. Bye.